So you're living in the Netherlands or in Deutschland?
Yeah, I'm living in the Netherlands still, and right now I'm in France, so I'm a lot closer to you than in Netherlands. I'm in the south of France, and yeah, I'm flying all over the place. I just came back from the United States 2 weeks ago, and I like it. I like to be in different places. It's inspiring, and I actually I spent last Christmas in Valencia, and for the first time in my life, I had real paella the way it's supposed to be. And I like to cook, so I thought I learned to make paella back home, and I wanted it to be as good as the paella I had in Valencia, and I'm getting very close.
But I hope they brought you a nice restaurant, because in Valencia happens the same that in Italy with pizza. You have to know where to
Yeah,
go to eat a good paella.
yeah, exactly. And I always like to do my homework, so I looked on a couple of websites where the real authentic paella is made in Valencia, and actually, my girlfriend and I stayed in the center of town, and we traveled with the tram to the coast where there is, I think it was it's Margarita or something like that. It was supposed to be like one of the best paellas in Valencia, so that's where we had like an authentic seafood paella. It was amazing.
Wow, that's great. Okay, that sounds great. Okay, to start the interview, first I would like to congratulate you for your new album,
Thank you
and
very much.
and I would like to know, if do you think this is the more powerful and heavy album of that you have done with Vandenberg?
Yes, yes. I'm doing the opposite of what people do when they're as long in the business as I am. They usually get mellower, and nicer and quieter. I do the opposite. I go harder.
Well, but I think it's very common now in the modern productions to be like more heavy, like guitars more powerful. How important was Bob Marlette as a producer to get that sound?
Well, actually, Bob is Bob is great to work with. But this is the sound actually. When I made the demos, this is the sound that I already had on the demos. It's also a result of working with Mats. As you can hear, Mats is a very intense singer, and he's got more gravel on his voice, rah, rah, rah,
Mhm.
and he sings with a lot of intensity. So that pushes me to play with more intensity as well, because you have to go for the balance. And yeah, I think it's a natural development. I remember in the early Vandenberg, this is the kind of sound that I was trying to get, but because I was very influenced by Rainbow and by a mix of AC/DC, Rainbow, Van Halen, Deep Purple, all the stuff that I love. But at the time, I didn't have the experience yet to go for this kind of sound. So I'm really happy that I can achieve that now.
That's great. And you were looking for Matt as a singer, that kind of singer, or you just found him for like by coincidence, or?
Yeah, it was a combination of things. When it didn't work out with Ronnie because of after COVID, everybody's schedules and agendas got messed up. And so when we were finally able to tour again after our agent had rescheduled the European tour 3 times, by that time Ronnie took on. Everybody knows Ronnie does a lot. He sings with Schenker, he sings with this, he sings with that. So by that time, it was really hard to match our agendas for the touring. So that's why we had to stop working together. And coincidentally and happily, I ran into Mats because there are not that many singers
Mhm.
on that level as guys like Ronnie and Mats and the Lusic. There's only a few, who can really sing this style very well. And I'm really happy I ran into Mats. Ooh, piece of luck.
That's great. And about writing the songs, how is the process? Do you write your songs by yourself? How do you start composing?
Yeah, I've always done it by myself, apart from working with David, of course. And this is the first and the only time, apart from working with Coverdale, that I'm working again with somebody else, like Mats likes to write his own lyrics, of course, and it makes sense. And we work very well together to come to this kind of style. I usually start with the musical part and with the verses and the chords, and I have ideas for the lyrics for the chorus, and I give them to Mats, and then Mats makes his own thing out of it. And sometimes he comes with it's very much it became very much a mutual thing. We work together on the arrangements, and we work together on the vocal melodies and all that stuff. But I always start with the guitar part. I have like a great riff. I go, oh, what would be cool after this? Oh, maybe go there and go there. So I have a framework of the song, and usually a couple of melody lines, always the first line of a chorus, including the lyric, like House on Fire. There's House on Fire. I had a thing, and I took it to Mats, and he made the verses with it, and then we go back and forth. We send each other ideas, and then I flew to Stockholm, where we worked together on the rest and put it together and the arrangement and all the stuff.
Nice. And do you record your ideas? You have your home studio, or you're more like a classic and don't mess with technology?
Yeah, I do. I do. I make very extensive demos on my iPad. I program drums and keyboards and play the guitars on it. So because I don't want to run the risk of fooling myself, what I used to do sometimes in the old days, where I think, oh, by the time it's going to sound good, then everything is going to sound good. But so I prefer to have a complete picture of how it's going to sound. And so I make those demos on my iPad, and then I went to Stockholm, and Mats has got a little studio in his house, just like I do. And we kind of put it together again, and then maybe we switched the arrangement around a little bit, and then we send it again, through the internet to each other, and it seems to work really well. So by the time we start recording everything, then we are very well prepared. And then Bob mixes it, that's basically it. So it works very well because we're all on the same page, so to speak. We know what we're after, and Bob knows exactly what I want it to sound like, So we got a great team together. I'm very happy with it.
Good. And when you're going on tour, and well, later I was gonna ask you if you have any tour in mind in Europe, and if you're gonna come to Spain. But I was thinking now, when you go on tour, have you thought of bringing another guitarist to make it more powerful with two guitars, or you just feel comfortable just with yourself?
Yeah, I'm so used. When I started out, my favorite bands were like in the early '70s, Cream, Hendrix, The Free, Mountain. All the bands that I always liked was like a four-piece, because what I like is that not everything is full, everything is filled, because sometimes the power of a little bit of silence can smack you in the face when it's not like a complete line of sound. So, and I've always liked the challenge of a small lineup, because it gives more space for the bass player and the drummer too. So yeah, Vandenberg has always been like a four-piece band, but it could very well be that in the future, maybe, at some point I could bring in like a keyboard guy or a guy who plays keyboards and rhythm guitar, something like that. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet, but you never know.
And do you have plans to present the album and go on tour in Europe? And are you gonna go to?
Yes, we tried to get a European tour together. We had a very extensive European tour together when COVID struck, and it had to be rescheduled 3 or 4 times, and it became really complicated because traveling and tour expenses and all that stuff has become very complicated these days, and a lot of venues where you could play went bankrupt in the COVID period, and a lot of people who were road crew, they stopped doing that, and they took on like a more solid job. So there's less people, less tour members. So it has become more complicated. But since the album is not going to come out until August, it's pretty late to start programming a tour for this year. So we hope to do a couple of shows here and there. Starting, we have Dutch tour planned. We have a short English tour planned, and I'm really hoping we can play Spain and France and a bunch of other countries. But I expect that it's going to be next year, like early next year or something.
No, that would be great. If you come to Madrid, I'll take you to eat a good paella in Madrid.
Oh, definitely. Good plan. Great plan.
Good. I read that you said that this album, that an album is like a painting, and then I also read that you painted the album covers for Heading for the Storm and Alibi albums. So I would like to know how art is important in your life and what you do also as a painter.
Yes, for me, when I was a kid, I started playing a little bit of guitar and that stuff. For me, it was always very normal to do both. And up to a certain age, I thought everybody does both. Why not, But then later on, I realized not everybody does that, And there's a lot of things that I like. I love cooking, as I mentioned before. I love painting. I love making music. And for me, it all comes from the same well. It's like a painting is composing with colors. Composing music is composing with sounds, and cooking is composing with flavors. So for me, it's all the same. I love it all. I really and I've been doing a lot of painting and drawing ever since I was a kid. So when I was 18, my dad said, "Well, as far as I'm concerned, you can start a study, either the conservatory or music, or the University of Arts, as long as it's something that you can get a job with afterwards." That was my dad's thing, and I'm glad he did. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to be a teacher, then I'd rather teach art than music, because I don't have the patience to listen to kids go ding, 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 ding. I don't have the patience. I don't even have the patience for myself. So I decided I'm going to do University of Arts. So I did teach art for about a year and a half at schools and privately. And I thought that's not the life for me. I want to be, I hope I can make a living as a musician. And in the meantime, I worked as a graphic designer for advertising agency and for publishing companies. And with that money, I could start Vandenberg at the time to make demos and all that stuff. And then it never stopped. I never thought I was going to be able to make a living as a rock musician. But I'm still doing it, It's a surprise to me every day when I go, man, who would have thought? I never would have thought that I would still be able to play loud rock music and make albums like this, after all those years, and I love it. It's one of my biggest passions, of course.
Yeah, that's following your dreams, and when you made your dreams happen, that's the best.
That's it.
Basically, I think what you're saying is that the most important is being creative wherever you do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that sometimes musicians, especially guitarists, we can tend to focus too much on the playing, but not on creating. And the most important is creating the parts, the melodies, the songs.
Totally agree. Yeah, that's it. I don't consider myself 100% guitar player, because I love writing songs and I love coming up with solos that have a melody instead of just fast stuff. I mean, I really respect all those really fast guitar players of these days who grow up listening to Steve Vai and Satriani and all those amazing players. But for me, I always listen to melodic players, whether it's Jeff Beck or Brian May, or when I was growing up, people like Mick Taylor or Jan Akkerman, the Dutch guy, or everybody who had a melody in their playing. That's the stuff that inspired me. And I really respect all the technical players, but I don't really consider myself that much of a technical player because I don't have patience for that because I'm always looking for the notes for the melodies and stuff, you know. And so when I pick up the guitar, that's where the melodies come out, and I go, oh, this sounds interesting. So then I go further and work with that.
Well, you made me think. I had a friend, a piano player, very good piano player, that we were talking one day about technique, and he said, you know, Jordi, people confuse technique with playing fast, but actually doing a bending like Gilmour, or you know, it's as hard as playing something fast. So that's also technique.
Yeah,
So
it is. You're right. You're right because with playing fast, you can basically just do runs. Everybody goes, wow, that's fast, you know. But to play a right note on the right place with the right feeling, to me, that is that is more brave because if it's not the right note and not played with the right feeling, then people go, oh, I don't know, you know, I don't know about that. It's like you're taking more risks, I think, than to rely purely on your technique. Yeah, fast runs will always sound impressive, but for me personally, I'm not trying to be impressive. You know, I try to reach the heart and the soul of people. And I'm not saying it's better, you know, it's just my personal preference. That's basically what it is, you know. I remember in the 70s when Elvin Lee from 10 Years After was considered he's the fastest guitar player. I go, yeah, it's really impressive, you know. But then again, you know, I listen to Jimi Hendrix and he plays the solo in, for instance, The Wind Cries Mary. And I go, oh man, it gives me goosebumps, you know, it gives me tingles. And that's what works for me. So it's very much personal, and that's the good thing about music and about any art form, whether it's the right paella or whether it's the right painting from Picasso or from Rembrandt, or whether it's a guitar solo from Brian May or whoever. If it touches you, that's what art is supposed to do, I think, you know.
Yeah, actually, I do teach guitar, and I know that the patience is, you have to be very patient. But relating to what we were talking, when I was hearing, preparing the interview, I was hearing your albums, your new albums. For me, what impresses me a lot of your playing is your vibrato, that it's awesome. And for me, as a teacher of guitar, one of the most difficult things to teach is to get a good vibrato, you know, because teaching to play notes is kind of easy. You just play this one, the other one, next one, you know. But you know, good vibrato is very difficult to get.
Oh, thank you, man. But I did not realize that, you know, because it's not something that I worked on or something or ever. I guess it comes out naturally, and maybe it has to do with the fact that I really enjoy singers very much, or saxophone players, or violin players, and I've always been a huge fan of Django Reinhardt, the gypsy jazz player, but he has a really fast vibrato, just like Paul Kossoff used to play in the Free, Gary Moore. They always have a fast vibrato, and my preference was always be a slower one that's more like a voice, because like when I hear a singer that, or a female singer or a male singer that has a vibrato like, you know, it makes me think of a goat. And I never like singers that have a fast vibrato. I like the ones with a slow one. So even though I didn't practice about it, but that's how my mental situation is when I play a melody. I go, it should sing, you know. But that's personal again.
You mentioned Steve Vai, and I would like to know how was working with Steve Vai and Whitesnake.
Oh, it was great. And Steve will tell you the same thing. Everybody thought, oh, it's competition. Well, Steve nor I, or any musician that I know, well, some do, but and a lot of musicians I don't know, don't look at it as competition because music can't be a competition. It's not like a sport, where you go, this guy is faster than the other guy, so he wins the marathon or something. Music is like an expression of an emotion, and you can't make a match out of or a competition out of emotions. You can't say the emotion of this guy is better than the emotion of that guy. It's all about feeling. And so Steve and I really had a great time touring together, and we're still very good friends. Um, and I think it worked very well for us because our styles are so different, and we both enjoy each other's style. And to my surprise, Steve, about 2 months ago, Steve told me, you probably don't realize that you influenced me as well, because I told him a while ago, a long time ago actually, we were talking about influences, and I said, everybody that you enjoy listening to is always going to create a little echo in the back of your mind. There's always going to be a little bit of influence, or a big one or a small one. And I told him, I only realized years after we played together that that there's always been an echo of a little bit of influence from you as well on my playing, even though we're totally different. And then 2 months ago, 3 months ago, Steve told me, what you probably don't realize that you influenced me as well. I go, no, I did not realize that. He said, yes. He said something similar to you. He said, I have always been a little jealous of your vibrato and your choice of notes. I go, I mean, Steve, he's one of those untouchable players. He's one of those players where everybody goes, "Oh shit!" And me, I look at myself as a way more basic player because I've been always been very influenced by the blues, by early blues. B.B. King, Freddie King. That's when I started. Early Eric Clapton in the Blues Breakers and in the Cream and Brian May, all those guys. And Steve has got very different influences, and his guitar teacher was Joseph Triani. And when Steve was 17, he wrote the arrangement of Frank Zappa tunes and all the stuff. So we come from totally different corners. So it was very surprising for me to hear that actually at some point apparently had a little bit of influence on Steve as well. That was great to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure it is because I think that when you play with someone, even for the good or for the bad, you will have some influence because you're playing with that
Yeah,
person, so you will learn things. And I was thinking,
yeah.
with all the important musicians, singers that you have played, is there anyone in special that you said, "Wow, that guy really did a good influence on me"?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
it's
anyone
it's, it's
special?
great. I've always been very clear about my influences because, sorry, my early influences were definitely
Leslie
Leslie West
West.
from Mountain, Leslie West, Jeff Beck from the very beginning, Eric Clapton in John Mayall and in the Cream. I mean, Clapton's solo of the live version of on Crossroads was Eddie Van Halen's favorite solo. Eddie played it to me note for note, and it sounded exactly like Clapton. I never had the patience to work out solos from other guys because after a couple of minutes I go, oh man, this takes too much. I don't have the patience for it, so I just did something like it. But early Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, big influence. The early blues guys. Later on, guys like Michael Schenker, Eddie Van Halen. Um, let's see, and apparently a little bit of Steve Vai at some point. When you hear somebody play next to you a year and a half, there's always going to be some echo. All the great players, basically every great player, I'm sure has an echo in the back of my mind that resonates at some point.
Hmm. I wanted to ask you about your soloing. Like first of all, when you did the solo like Here I Go Again, which is so melodic, uh,
Thank you.
do you compose those solos or you are more of an improvise guy?
It's in a weird way a bit of both. I think I record a couple of solos, and then I think, I like this part, and then I think, oh, that part is pretty cool too. So then I play it again, and then I end up using bits and pieces of both, and then add something to it to the point where I go, this is okay, you know. The Here I Go Again one, I remember I had the first line, and then it just flowed from there. So I thought, okay, that solo was recorded very quickly in Keith Olsen's studio. I think I recorded in 5 or 10 minutes or something. And later on, what usually happens is later on, I want to learn my own solos because I don't always know what I exactly did. But I always enjoyed my favorite guitar players when they stay very close to the solo that I know from the records. So with me, it's very often a reverse thing where I learn my own solos afterwards in order to stick to them very closely in a live situation.
Uh-huh. That's good. And I read that you recorded this with a cheap Japanese guitar. Is that possible?
Yeah, yeah. It was my travel guitar because I flew to the United States because Geffen Records uh, made me an offer for a new recording contract, but they wanted to put a new lineup for Vandenberg together because they didn't really um, think those musicians were the right level. But when I was in the United States, they said, well, we haven't been honest with you. We actually have two offers for you, and one is to build a new lineup for Vandenberg together, and the other one is we would really like you to join David Coverdale in Whitesnake. And David already asked me 3 times before that, so that didn't come as news to me. And I said, well, I need to think about it a couple of days. And I said, well, while you're here, we would really like you to make a new guitar arrangement for Here I Go Again, because they thought John Sykes' part, um, the way John Kolodner, the A&R manager, described it, he said it sounded to him like a heavy metal version of a country song. uh, so, so he asked me to make a new guitar arrangement and to play a new solo on it. And I said, well, great, I would love to because I thought it was a great song, and I've always been ever since David joined Deep Purple. I've always been a big fan of David singing. So I thought it was an honor. So while I was in the States, I played on my travel guitar, and through a rented amplifier that was in the studio.
Mhm. I read also that in one point of your life you were offered to enter Thin Lizzy. Could you tell me about that?
Yes, I rehearsed with Thin Lizzy for about a week. Um, it was when Gary Moore left, and I mean, they were one of my favorite bands. I was actually, I wanted to say yes, because Phil Lynott told me, oh, if you want, you've got a job, and they had auditions and all the stuff. But then I called with my dad, and I was still at Art Academy, and I talked to my dad about it, and he said, you know what? I think you should finish your art university because otherwise you can never find a job if it doesn't work out. So I listened to my dad and also to the manager of Thin Lizzy at the time. He said, well, there are quite some drug problems in the band, and I didn't drink at the time. I didn't smoke. I still don't smoke. I do drink a nice wine, whether it's Spanish or French or Italian. But the manager said, well, it's a little bit of a difficult time in Thin Lizzy right now. I don't know where it's going. are you sure you want to give up your art university to join this band? I advise you to really think about it. And when my dad said the same thing, I thought I have to be smart. So it was really difficult not to say yes, you know. But funny thing is, as we know, that a little bit later, John Sykes joined. And when John Sykes wasn't in Whitesnake anymore, I was in Whitesnake. So, and John and I never met, uh, which is funny because we changed places twice. At some point we will meet somewhere, I suppose. And I suppose we both have stories, you know?
Yeah, life is like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about your project that you did, Moon Kings, which I really like too.
Yeah.
Is that you're gonna do anything with that too, or just stick with the Vandenberg?
Well, at some point, we had such a great time at Moon Kings, but Jan, the singer, a good friend of mine, he has this huge farming company in Holland, and he couldn't be out of the country for more than maximum a couple of days. That was actually the reason why I had to stop with Moon Kings, because I wanted to do international shows, and there were a lot of offers, but Jan couldn't leave the country. So I thought, well, in that case, it's better to put Moon Kings in the refrigerated, in the fridge, and maybe pick it up at some time. Um, it could very well be that at some point I would love to do another Moon Kings tour with an album, because we really enjoyed playing together. We really had a great time. But you know, right now my focus is definitely on Vandenberg, because it's going well. It's really exciting to have the new album out. I'm really happy with the way the album turned out, and you got an amazing lineup. You know, yeah. For now, this is definitely my focus.
Okay. And apart from your project, do you do any other collaborations with other musicians or other projects?
I never really did a lot. As an exception, a while ago, I recorded a solo for Arjen Lucas's ADRIAN album, which was actually the first time in a long time, because I thought we're both Dutch, we both know each other, we both respect each other's work. So I thought, let's do something else for a change also. I don't know, you know, there's no guarantees. I always go with my instincts, you know, when something pops up, I go, oh, that looks like fun. Maybe I should do it, you know. So I don't know. I'm gonna find out, I suppose.
Okay. We are we're running out of time, and I would like, you know, as the last question, I read that you define yourself as a workaholic, and I would like, if you could explain us how is like a regular day in your life.
Well, you know, I am a workaholic in several respects. First of all, I have to divide my time between all the art forms that I love, whether it's making music, playing guitar, painting, cooking, but also the art of life. I love leading a great life, and I'm very lucky and fortunate that I lead this beautiful life, because I'm following my passions and I'm following my dreams. And I always make sure that I also have time to enjoy my life, and not only work on all the things that I love doing, you know. And so right now I'm dividing my time between writing some songs, playing guitar, cooking, taking long walks in the nature, and being with people that I love, like my friends, my girlfriend, my daughters, all that stuff, you know. So in that respect, I'm a workaholic, that I never get bored. There's always something going on in my life that I enjoy doing, and that I will keep enjoying doing. And sometimes one thing is, I have to make sacrifices, that I can't put all my time in playing guitar, trying to get better, or writing songs, trying to make better songs, making better paella. You know,
Okay.
there's all those great things that I have to divide my time.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's great. I love cooking too, and good food. So
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure talking to you, and if I find out that you can come to play to Madrid, try to stay in touch with you to maybe to make an interview. And if you want, I can take you to a nice restaurant here
Oh,
that
it sounds good.
they cook the paella with like tree burning. You know, like they cook it with
Oh yeah, with running fire. Yeah, that's what they
yeah,
did
with
in
fire. So
yeah, that's it.
so
That's what I did in that restaurant where I went to. There were about 6 fires.
mhm.
All because you have the 7 stages
Yeah.
now. You have to go slow, 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 and then really hard at the very end to get the little crust, the soldado, and what's it called again? Soldado, like the little crust at the bottom.
Socarrat, socarrat,
Socera, that's
socarrat.
it.
Yeah, it's the burnt.
So at the very end, you raise the fire
Yeah.
and you go.
They say
It's
the
so
best way
great.
of doing paellas with fire, and then the last 3 or 4 minutes, finish cook it in the oven. That's
Ah,
they say that's the
ah,
best. So you do it with
ah,
fire, but the last 3 minutes you put it in the oven so it gets also
ah.
dry on the top. They say that's the best thing.
All
But
right, I'm
you
gonna
need
ask
to have
her.
like a big oven, to put the
Yeah,
paellas.
I know. With a big fan. Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, I keep practicing. It's great.
I'm sure you do great. Well, it's been a huge pleasure talking to you. You are also one of my heroes too. So I've been
Thank you very
playing the
much.
Hero Go again solo many times with bands. So so
Great,
it's
man. Thank
great.
you very much.
And
I
hope to
had, I
meet
had
you
a
in
great
person.
time.
Hope to meet
We
you in person. You
will.
come to play here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Gracias. Adios.
Gracias. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you very much, man.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.